Hi everyone, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on New World. So, as I'm sure most of you will now know already, the game's release has unfortunately been delayed back until the 25th of August, along with the beta being delayed until some date in July, not actually yet been specified. Obviously, it was pretty disappointing to wake up to this yesterday, as it's a delay of about 3 months, but I actually can't say I'm all that surprised. I think I can imagine with the whole of Amazon Game Studios now working from home, that it's probably added quite a delay to their rate of work. And I think once you add that into the fact that, well, let's face it, they had an extremely tight and fairly challenging schedule to keep to anyway, then I think kind of this situation probably was a little bit inevitable. But disappointing as though I do think it actually is, I think it probably was the correct decision to make. I'd rather they take an extra 3 months to get things right, rather than rush it and have a load of problems at launch or incomplete systems that, aren't really ready for us to deal with. But the delay actually isn't the only thing I wanted to talk about today in this video, because at the same time they released the video and information about the delay, they also released us another developer news article covering all about the invasion mechanics. We've kind of been waiting for this one for a while, so I was kind of pretty pleased to get that at least. So, what are the invasions? Well, we already know that we shall be fighting the corrupted in the north, and we're also going to have to deal with these small-scale corrupted portals appearing around the land, but invasions are going to represent a full-scale corrupted invasion against your town and your fort. Kind of think, well, this always reminds me of the Daedra assaulting the cities in Oblivion. And if you fail to hold, the town will be raided, the town upgrades that you've worked to actually level up will some be destroyed, and some of your progress is going to be set backwards. So there's really going to be an actual emphasis on really winning these. So how do they work from a mechanics point of view? Well, these are going to be set up quite a lot like the territory wars fights. The day prior to an invasion, 50 sign-up slots are going to become available for the player to sign up for. And this is where I'm going to have my first major concerns about this mechanic. Only 10 of those slots are going to be reserved for the town's owner. So, for that company, it's only going to be 10 slots. So that means that 80% of the invasion is going to be filled with random, probably fairly uncoordinated players. I can see kind of from Amazon's point of view why they've done this. They don't want this to make, a guild-only game and make it inaccessible or, unfriendly for solo players. And I think that's a good thing, I do agree with that. But personally, I think they've gone a little bit too far in this case. I think a greater number of slots should be allocated for the town's owner. Can you imagine how frustrating it's going to be when you've spent the past days with your companies working to upgrade your town's crafting facilities and fort defences, only to have it all downgraded when the invasion's lost, because even though you were there with your 20%, 80% of the players, some were stood on the wall facing the wrong way, another one was running into a corner, and another one was firing a ballista off into the sky. It's just going to be so frustrating. So I think they need to balance that out. Maybe a 50% split, 25 players. At least that would give the defence then a core mechanic of coordinated players who are all going to be on communications, etc. Plus it's going to make it a more fun event for clans as well. So hopefully there's going to be a little bit more balancing going on there, something that gets changed going forwards before we actually hit final release. The other problem I noticed is that it says that sign-ups are going to be on the day prior. Hopefully there's going to be a good chunk of reserve slots, because with lots of random players signing up, 40 random players, I would have thought there's going to be a good chunk of people who then don't actually turn up on the day and time of that fight. So hopefully there's going to be some reserve slots or last minute sign-ups to make up those numbers, so that players can still get that full 50 player fight. So once the invasion itself actually kicks off, the 50 players will then get instanced over into the fort in kind of the same way it's going to work in the territory wars mechanic, and they get to begin their preparation phase. So every player is going to start the battle with these battle tokens, and they're going to get 50 of them. And they can choose to spend them on things like bombs, mines, traps, turret ammunition, healing potions, mana potions, and a range of different stuff that they can get to use in the battle. Kind of by this point I'm expecting Nazi zombies to start coming over the wall any second. But much like my Call of Duty metaphor, further battle tokens are actually going to be earned throughout the battle. Killing enemies, you're going to be getting more battle tokens. Repairing structures, you're going to be getting more battle tokens. Healing allied players, basically things that contribute towards the successful defence of the invasion. and those battle tokens can continue to be spent throughout the battle, so you can kind of choose to save up for better equipment, or you can sort of just go out early on and just get the stuff that you think you need early on in the invasion. Then it begins. The first 8 waves of brutal, corrupted demons. They go on to list sort of the range of different enemies you may be facing up against, from things like lowly grunts, who mostly focus on destroying structures and smashing down your gates to try and get into your fort, to there's actually going to be things like snipers and sharpshooters, who are going to focus on picking off players who stick their heads above the parapets on the walls. I thought that was really kind of cool. And supposedly these snipers are going to be sort of dodging and evading and bouncing around to try and make it kind of hard for you to shoot back at them. We can also expect things like bombers. These are a really cool sort of suicide unit who are going to try and basically charge at the gate, plant their bomb and cause massive amounts of damage. I strongly advise to try and eliminate these guys before they reach the walls, because I think they detonate dead or alive, so it's going to be some big explosions going off with those guys. There's also going to be things like raiders who are going to focus on trying to get up close and personal with you, trying to attack the players, and drive you back from the gateways once they've got in, so that the rest of the bigger troops can get in and cause the damage to the structures. And of course there'll be a range of bosses. They don't go into too many details about what these bosses exactly will be, but hopefully there's going to be a pretty good selection rather than just the same boss every time. So obviously, to help defeat these hordes, the players, kind of as I mentioned earlier, are going to get access to a range of turrets, bombs, traps. Some of them are going to be pre-placed by the town's owners, particularly the turrets, things like the ballistas, the Gatling guns, etc. But traps, bombs and things are going to be available for those battle tokens that I talked about a little bit earlier on. And they're going to be able to place around, ideally probably I'm guessing around the gateway, because that's where those hordes are going to be focusing their efforts to try and push through that gateway. And hopefully you can use them to keep the enemy away. So when, or I guess if, the gates get breached, then it moves on to the defence of the fort claim. So this is a destroyable structure which, if the corrupted manage to reach and apply enough damage to and destroy, that's going to result in the failure of the invasion. This is basically the object of the defence. You really need to hold this fort structure, this fort claim. And yeah, so if you fail to do so and it gets destroyed, you lose. However, should the player manage to survive the 8 waves, hold them off the fort claim long enough, defeat those 8 waves, then basically you're going to win the invasion. And you can expect to be rewarded with a range of experience, in-game currency, and hopefully some pretty decent loot. I can imagine there's going to be quite a good chunk of Azoth coming out of this. So, all in all, what do I think of this system? I think it sounds like a pretty decent system. I like the idea of a challenging defence against the AI. Hopefully it is pretty hard. I mean, I think it wants to be. And it's nice that you genuinely have things and progress to lose. I think, as I mentioned before, more spots need to be allocated for the clans, so there's a little bit of coordination there. I think in complete randoms it's going to be a bit stressful, and so it wants to be a bit more centrally organised. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. I'm a big fan of the system. A couple of other small points I think that are worth noting are that a minimum player level of 50 is going to be required to take part in this. I think that's going to be from the clan and both from randoms, and it is expected that these invasions will occur around every 4 days. I'm kind of assuming that's going to be per town rather than the whole world, otherwise it's going to be a pretty rare event. So, what are your thoughts on invasions? What we learned about today? Big fan, don't like it, not sure. And also, what do you think about the delay that's been applied to New World, this 3-month delay back? I personally think it's probably a good thing, even though it kind of makes me pretty sad, but I'll be kind of interested to know what you guys think. So do let me know in the comments down below, and of course please do give the video a like, it really does help it out, and of course subscribe to the channel for a load more New World content. Thanks for watching guys, and I shall see you all on the next video.